A person can win the award, hear the applause, and feel more fake than before. That is the absurdity. Not politely humble. Not, I still have a lot to learn. Something stranger. They get the degree, land the job, pass the exam, publish the paper, hear the praise, and some quiet part of their brain says, if they really knew me, they would take it all back. Confidence should work like a progress bar. The better you get, the more confident you feel. A beginner should be nervous. An expert should relax. A person surrounded by evidence of success should eventually believe the evidence. But with imposter feelings, success does not always cure the doubt. Sometimes success feeds it. Because now the stakes are higher. Now people expect something from you. Now the next performance has to prove the last one was not a fluke. And that is the first weird clue. Imposter feelings are not only about failing. They often show up after you succeed. Imagine two people take the same test and both get an A. One person thinks, I'm good at this. The other thinks, the test was easy, I got lucky. The professor was generous, I studied too much. Next time, they'll find out. Same result. Completely different accounting system. Failure counts as evidence. Success gets explained away. If you mess up, it proves you were never good enough. If you do well, it proves you worked too hard, had help, got lucky, or somehow fooled everyone. It is like playing a game where negative points are permanent, but positive points expire the moment you earn them. The phrase goes back to 1978, when psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes described what they called the imposter phenomenon in more than 150 high-achieving women. These were not people with no evidence of ability. They included students, academics, and professionals with real accomplishments. That was the strange part. The evidence was there, but emotionally, it did not land. They could know, logically, that they had succeeded. They could list the grades, degrees, promotions, and praise, but they could not feel that the success belonged to them. And here is a detail that matters. It was originally called the imposter phenomenon, not the imposter syndrome. That was not just word choice. It is not a formal medical diagnosis with one official test that declares, perfectly and forever, yes, you have it. Researchers use questionnaires, including the well-known 20-item Clance imposter phenomenon scale from the 1980s. But the boundaries are still messy. The internet often treats it like a disease you either have or do not have. The research points to something slipperier, a pattern, a state, a way of interpreting yourself when achievement, evaluation, identity, and uncertainty all collide. And once researchers looked beyond the original group, another popular story became too simple. It is not only women. A large meta-analysis published in 2024 found that women scored higher than men on average, across more than 40,000 participants. But the difference was modest, and it varied by field, region, and the scale being used. Earlier studies had been mixed, with some finding differences and others finding little or none. So the clean viral version, this is a women's problem, is too neat. The more accurate version is stranger. Imposter feelings appear wherever people are being measured, compared, and asked to prove they belong. Students, doctors, professors, engineers, managers, artists, first-generation professionals. People entering rooms where the standards are high and the rules are not always visible. Which raises the real question. Why would competence make anyone feel fraudulent? If you enjoy finding the hidden logic behind everyday absurdities like this, thank you for watching The Real Absurdities. Subscribe if you want more episodes where the thing that looks irrational slowly starts to make sense. And leave a comment with another strange human system you want explained, because the best part of this story is still coming. Imposter feelings are not completely irrational. Here is why. When you become more skilled, you do not just learn answers. You learn how many answers you still do not know. A beginner sees a subject as a small room. An expert sees the hidden doors, the basement, the wiring, the cracks in the ceiling, and the person down the hall who understands one corner of it better than they ever will. So competence can create a cruel illusion. The more you know, the more visible your ignorance becomes. Meanwhile, other people's ignorance is mostly hidden from you. You experience your own uncertainty from the inside. You remember every hesitation, every unfinished thought, every basic thing you searched for, every meeting where you nodded while secretly trying to catch up. But you see other people from the outside. You see the polished answer, the confident email, the finished presentation, the title, the award photo, the calm face at the conference table. You compare your backstage footage to everyone else's final cut. And in high-achieving environments, almost everyone is doing some version of this at the same time. That creates the social trap. If everyone feels uncertain, but everyone hides uncertainty, then everyone concludes they are the only one faking. The room fills with people thinking, "I do not belong here," while using everyone else's calm expression as proof. This is why reassurance can fail. Someone says, "You're doing great," and the imposter brain says, "Exactly, I fooled them." Praise becomes pressure, because praise creates a future expectation. If people think you are brilliant, now you have to keep being brilliant. If they call you talented, every ordinary mistake feels like evidence against the character they think you are playing. So the brain reaches for two familiar survival strategies. One is overpreparation. You work too much, polish too long, check one more detail, read one more source, stay up one more hour. Then when you succeed, you do not think, "I am capable." You think, "I only survived because I overworked." The other is procrastination. You delay because starting means facing the possibility that you cannot do it. Then the deadline gets close, panic takes over, and somehow you pull it off. But when you succeed, you do not think, "I handled that." You think, "That was luck, I got away with it." Both paths lead back to the same place. Success fails to become identity. It becomes a narrow escape. And this is the twist. Imposter feelings are an exaggerated response to a real problem. Human beings are social animals. Belonging matters. Reputation matters. Being exposed as incompetent in a high-status group can carry real consequences. So the brain monitors the gap between what other people expect and what you privately feel able to deliver. That monitor can be useful. It can make people prepare carefully, listen closely, ask better questions, and stay alert to the people around them. Some workplace research has even found that people with imposter thoughts can sometimes come across as more interpersonally effective, possibly because they pay more attention to others. But useful does not mean harmless. A smoke alarm can save your life. It can also ruin your life if it screams every time you make toast. Imposter feelings are often linked with anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, burnout, and perfectionism. The danger is not the occasional thought, "I hope I can handle this." The danger is when no amount of evidence is allowed to count. That is why "just be confident" is such a shallow answer. The problem is not a shortage of compliments. It is a broken evidence filter. The mind accepts mistakes as truth and treats accomplishments as exceptions. So the absurdity is not that smart people feel like frauds because they are secretly stupid. It is that smart people may be more aware of complexity, more exposed to comparison, and more likely to enter rooms where the standards keep rising. Achievement does not always quiet self-doubt. Sometimes achievement gives self-doubt better material. And that points to something bigger than one person's insecurity. Modern life is built to display outcomes and hide process. We see titles, acceptance letters, promotions, awards, finished work, and confident announcements. We rarely see the confusion, revision, panic, help, luck, failure, and ordinary human mess underneath. So everyone looks more legitimate from a distance, and we look suspiciously unfinished to ourselves. Imposter feelings seem absurd because success should make people feel secure. But once you see the hidden machinery, the bad accounting, the private uncertainty, the social comparison, and the rising expectations, the feeling starts to make a strange kind of sense. The fraud feeling is not proof that you do not belong. Sometimes, it is just what belonging feels like before your mind has caught up with your life.